Hello everybody! I hadn't really planned on reviewing this movie, but the other day, after rewatching it, I realized that I had more to say than would fit in a What Else I Saw mini review. So, change of plans, here is a full-size edition of my thoughts on Stella Dallas. Stella Dallas is a 1937 drama directed by King Vidor, the second and more well-known film adaptation of a novel by Olive Higgins Prouty. It stars Barbara Stanwyck as Stella Martin, the ambitious daughter of a miner who's dissatisfied with her lower-class family and doesn't want to end up a drudge like her mother. She wants to improve her mind and marry a man of culture and refinement. She sets her heart on handsome Stephen Dallas, a millionaire playboy who's fallen on hard times, but is on his way back up the ladder. Stella uses her feminine wiles and a little deception to catch Stephen's eye, and in spite of their socioeconomic differences, they fall in love and marry. But wedded bliss doesn't last long. The birth of their daughter Laurel eventually leads to disagreement between them. Their relationship crumbles and they separate. Stephen agrees that Stella will raise Laurel, even though he has some issues with her judgment, especially when it comes to her friendship with boisterous Ed Munn, played by Alan Hale. And for this, I don't blame Stephen. I can't stand Alan Hale's character either. Stella doesn't take to the responsibilities of motherhood immediately. She still wants to go out dancing and meet people, but she soon falls in love with her child and dedicates herself to providing her with the best in spite of their meager circumstances. They are content with each other. They have a close relationship. But as Laurel grows up, Stella realizes that she may be holding her back. Wanting her to be happy, even if it means denying her own happiness, Stella makes a tremendous sacrifice for her daughter's sake. At first, Stella Dallas may sound like another deteriorating marriage melodrama, a subgenre of film that I don't typically enjoy. That's not what it is, though. It is a moving story about the tight bond between a mother and her daughter, which is why this movie airs on Turner Classic Movies every Mother's Day. I find that my appreciation for this film increases as time goes by, partly because, as I have a very close relationship with my mom, I find myself relating to it more and more. And this time around, I took note of how strong and how likable the three main female characters are. So that's what I'm going to focus on with this review, starting with, of course, Barbara Stanwyck's stellar performance. I've seen her in several films, comedies, dramas, thrillers, as a blonde, as a brunette, being virtuous, being wicked. To me, Stella Dallas is her best work. Aside from the fact that this movie produced this photo, which I love, acting-wise, it's a demanding part. The film spans about 20 years, and as the story progresses, her costumes and makeup become less than flattering, reflecting Stella's diminishing economic status, her advance into middle age, and especially her tacky taste in clothing. She has good fashion sense when it comes to her daughter, whose clothes Stella painstakingly makes herself, copying whatever's in vogue, but when it comes to her own style, well, Stella has an embarrassing habit of going way over the top. No doubt Stanwyck, as she often did in her career, drew from her own background as a working-class girl from Brooklyn to play brassy, unrefined, flamboyant Stella. What's incredible is the subtlety of her performance, the way she maintains the delicate balance of the character's coarseness and her sensitivity without ever being excessive. My favorite moments, the ones that I feel are most powerful, are the ones in which there is no dialogue. Acting isn't just about speaking words, saying lines, it's about communicating with your body, your hands, your face, your eyes. One shot of Stella's expression is all you need to know the depths of emotion she's feeling. It can be rough watching Stella make a spectacle of herself and make decisions that you just know are going to have unintended consequences, but it's even more painful to see her internal struggle, wanting to hold on to her little girl forever, but also wanting her to have every possible opportunity. As Laurel Dallas from age 13 up, and Shirley also gives a great performance. Both she and Stanwyck, who incidentally were only 11 years apart, were nominated for Academy Awards for their work on this film, though neither won. Laurel is a sensitive, modest girl who takes after her father, but loves her mother and remains faithful to her. We see her gradually become aware of her mother's shortcomings, and I know that if she were written and played differently, if she became bratty or ungrateful or selfish, I'd have a very different reaction to this movie. But when she hears her mother being ridiculed or sees that her feelings have been hurt, she clings to her even harder with a desire to shield and protect her, a feeling that I understand all too well. Although her renewed relationship with her father does give rise to divided loyalties and a sense of dissatisfaction, she nobly keeps this conflict to herself, and whether it's right or not, she's willing to give up things to stick with her mother and keep her company, lest she feel lonely or neglected. One of the most beautiful moments, I think, is the scene on the train when Laurel overhears some girls making fun of her mother. She doesn't wallow in adolescent self-pity and mortification, but slips down to her mother's bed and snuggles up to her. She doesn't know if Stella also overheard the girls or not. She did, but she acts on the instinct to comfort and take care of her mother as she would have comforted and taken care of her. Laurel's devotion to her mother is so strong that Stella, in order to ensure Laurel's future happiness, must put on an act to push her away. I don't care for this development, since it breaks up the wonderful fellowship that they share, and my heart aches for Stella as she forces herself to go through with it. But that's the story, and that's how you get the memorable ending. Stella's foil is Helen Morrison, played by Barbara O'Neill. She is the demure, well-bred woman who was Stephen Dallas's childhood sweetheart. Years later, she's a widow with 3 boys. She and Stephen bump into each other years after his separation from Stella, and old feelings are rekindled. You might have been free to dislike Helen had she fit more conveniently into the interloper or evil stepmother mold, but she doesn't. What I love about Helen is how understanding and intuitive she is. As played by John Bowles, Stephen Dallas, who I find nice but boring, is a little obtuse. All his straight-lacedness and refinement keeps him from seeing the whole picture, and he can be selfish and thoughtless at times, even though he doesn't mean to be. Helen, however, is quick to read between the lines. The scene in which she and Stella meet, that's another moment that gets me. She sees through Stella's tawdry presentation and rough manners, understanding what her true motive is in coming to see her. And you can't forget that Helen is the one who insists that the curtains stay drawn during the final sequence. This movie has one of the most famous tearjerker endings. If it doesn't make you feel a little bit emotional, I don't know, check your pulse. I had seen Stella Dallas before, but it hit me harder this time, and I mean much harder. I spent the last half hour in tears, which is unusual. I hardly ever cry watching old movies, but that's how much I connected to this story. Not as a mother, obviously, since I don't have kids, but as a daughter. I know the sacrifices my mom has made, and I've seen her exhaust herself taking care of her children, and in return, I want to do everything I can to take care of her. My relationship with my mom is something that is very important to me, and I actually have trouble talking about it without getting emotional. I know this from experience, much to my chagrin, and I know that I can't talk about it here. So I'll just say, before I get into dangerously sappy territory, that the relationship portrayed in this film, I get it. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts on Stella Dallas. I didn't review the film in time for Mother's Day, but any time is a good time to talk about something that reminds you how much you should appreciate and love your mother for everything she's done for you. If you've never seen this movie, I would recommend it, but I would also recommend having a tissue handy just in case, maybe 2 or 3 tissues. If you have seen it, I'd love to know what you think about it, so go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.